you've got a block, or you can use a blanket as well. We're going to combine feet together, knees wide, and then a little chest opener. So you can put a block or the blanket underneath the shoulder blades and then bring the feet together, knees wide. Or if you've got pillows, there's so many ways. I got out a bunch of props tonight. Yeah, so you could just like roll the blanket or underneath the shoulders, but you can also add the pillows or blocks to support your thighs, or big, whatever it's called. Anyway, feet together, knees wide. But it's sort of supta, baddha, konasana with a little bit of chest opening. And the chest opener sort of keeps you quite awake. It depends on your hips, like how much support you want. I mean, generally we try to bring the heels closer, but sometimes that's just not in the to-do ability today. And then of course you can always use belts there too, but it's easy enough to just put little pillows there and then lie back to get a bit of a chest opener. Then you can really take your breath and move it. When you inhale, see if you can feel the breath moving into the armpits and the thigh sockets. And then when you exhale, see if you can feel those parts of the body softening. So I'm just doing the view of the same pose, but sitting. So when you inhale, it's like all the energy goes out to your fingertips, or maybe it goes into your feet when you inhale. And then when you exhale, everything softens back into the armpits and the thigh socket. So often we just think about the breath is only into the lungs, but the breath goes much further than that. It really hydrates the whole body. So, and there's movement there. So just see if you can feel. It might be very subtle, but see if you can feel it move into those thigh sockets when you inhale, and those armpits. And when you exhale, both areas really soften. And this is a really sort of nice way to let your mind and your body really connect, catch up from whatever's been going on in the day. I know Richard's up in the morning and Nicole's finishing from the evening. So whatever's came before this class and what's coming after this class, see if you can just give yourself the time and space for the current class that we're doing, and really feel into how the breath hydrates you all the way out the armpits and the thigh sockets. And then when you exhale, it just all softens in towards the center, in through the armpits and the thigh sockets. And then just take 2 or 3 more breaths like that. And then slowly begin to take your props away and just bring up the knees and keep the feet on the floor, and just one at a time, just stretch behind the knee by holding on. You can hold on to the thigh, keep one leg bent, and just stretch behind the knee, just because that's what we were doing. We were bending at the knee, so we're just trying to open that knee like it's an eyeball. And then bend that knee down, and then bring the other leg up. wherever you can stretch it. It's just about opening up the back of the knee at this point. And then bring that back down. And we'll do a little bit of abdominals, so you can have the palms down next to you, or you can support your head, or you can bring them overhead. Sometimes I like to hold the block to make it more intense, but you can do whatever feels right for you. I'm going to start with my hands under my head. So bend the knees into the chest, really extend through those heels. Again, we're opening the backs of the legs again. Bend the knees, soften the feet on the floor. So we're supporting the movement with the breath and really waking up the core of the body, really feeling into those abdominals. Want to change your arm position, make it more intense or make it less intense. You can change your arm positions. I'm just bringing my palms together, thumbs down to the floor, working into my arms, but really I still am connected to my shoulder blades. So my shoulder blades are rolling down towards my hips. And then do 2 more. And then just bring the knees down and a couple of breaths here. Again, if you want to press through the heels and shake through the pelvis, you can. And then for the next one, you can either have the hands next to you or under your head or overhead, and we'll bend the knees into the chest, and then we're going to extend one leg down, up, and one leg heel hovers off the floor. Now you can modify this if it's too intense, and then bend the knees into the chest, extend the opposite heels, one hovers to the floor, one comes up. Bend the knees into the chest, opposite. Inhale. Extend through the heels. Inhale. Extend through the heels. Inhale. Extend through the heels. We'll do it 2 more times, 1 more each side. Bring the knees in. And again, if you want to press up and wiggle through your abdominals, and then roll over to your side. And this is where it's nice if you have blocks or something to put your hands on. If you don't, you could always, since I have these 2 cushions that are the same, I could always use these, although they're not very firm. So in some ways, that's why, you can use books too. Books are more firm too. But I'm just gonna put my blocks here. I'll show you both ways, so just in case. But so the blocks, you can have the blocks here, or you can just have your palms here. But the nice part about the blocks is it gives you a little more elevation so that you can swing the leg in. So I'm swinging my right leg through, and then just a little lunge here to start to soften through the hip flexors. And then you can bring the hands on the leg, So you really want to press that back foot down, and as much of the shin that's on the floor, most of us have a little space under the ankles. Oh, that's where those little stickies come in handy, rolling them under the ankles. I'm wondering what happened to all my stickies. Did I bring them home? Maybe I did. I probably have them somewhere. And then inhale those arms up. And then exhale the hands down to the floor or down to the block, and swing that leg in. And then swing the other leg through. So without the blocks, you're just coming with the hands here and starting to lunge forward. But you can also bring the fingertips on the floor and begin that lunge. And then you can bring the hands on the thigh. Here's where you really lift the chest up. You bring the abdominals in, lift the chest up. And then you can inhale the arms up. So it's kind of like lunge warrior, I guess, warrior one. And then exhale the hands down and bring that leg back. And then place the hands on the floor, or if you've got two blocks, you can put them on blocks. And really press into those hands so you're engaging those into the shoulder blades so the arms are engaged. And tuck the toes under and go into a downward facing dog. And then bring the knees down and go into big toes together, knees wide. And then inhale, come up again. Tuck the toes under. And then you're going to bring the right leg up into three-legged dog. You don't have to come up very high. You can keep it quite low because you don't want to be tilting the pelvis. You want the pelvis facing down. And then bring that foot down. And then inhale the left leg up into three-legged dog. You really press through that back heel, and then bring the feet down into downward dog, and then bring the knees down and come into big toes together, knees wide. And then inhale up to all fours, and we'll go through some standing poses this way using three-legged dog. So tucking the toes under, you come into downward dog, and then inhale that right leg up, and then you bend, and you can get a little bit of abdominal work here if you hold it for a few breaths. Bring the foot between your hands, which you can also use your hand to bring that leg through. And then really stabilize the legs. See if you can float those arms up and come into warrior one pose. And then to come out, you bring the hands down, bring the right leg up into three-legged dog, and then bring that foot down, and a couple of breaths in downward dog. And then inhale that left leg up in three-legged dog. Bending that knee, placing it between the hands, and really stabilizing between the feet. And see if you can really bring the upper body up by stabilizing the lower body into warrior one or lunge warrior. And then bringing the hands down, bringing the left leg up into three-legged, back into downward facing. If you're restful here, you can have a few breaths here, or you can go into big toes together, knees wide, Adho Mukha Virasana. Because sometimes if you've got stuff going on your shoulders, it's hard to hold downward facing dog as a restful pose. We want downward facing dog to become restful, but you have to really work those back thighs to manage that. So then inhale the right leg up into three-legged dog, bending the knee, placing the foot between the hands, and then you're going to pivot the left leg down, bring the forearm on the thigh to konasana. A couple of breaths here. And then exhale the hands down. You pivot the back foot so that you can bring the right leg up into three-legged dog, and then back into downward facing dog. And then inhale the left leg up, bending the knee through between the hands, and then really stabilizing, put the right heel down, stabilizing the legs and coming into konasana. Side, angle, lateral pose. And then to come out of it, you bring the hands down, bring that left leg up, bring the feet into downward facing. If you want more of a rest, you come into big toes together, knees wide. Or you can stay in a few breaths in downward facing dog. And then inhale the right leg up, bending the knee between the hands. Now you're going to pivot that heel down, and now we're going to come up to triangle pose. So slowly straighten that front leg out. You can have the hand. It's also where the block can come in handy. You can have the hand on the thigh, shin, and then the top arm comes up. And to come out, you start to bend the front leg, hands down, pivot that back heel up, take the right leg up into three-legged, bring the foot down, and then inhale, left leg up, bending the knee, placing the foot between your hands, then you pivot that heel down, slowly straighten the front leg and then the top arm. So it's like you can unfurl like a fern. Top hand can come up. then to come out, you can bend the front leg. Bring the hands down, bring the heel up. And then inhale that left leg up into three-legged and down into downward facing dog. Either staying for a few breaths in downward dog or coming into big toes together, knees wide. And then inhale the right leg up, bending the knee between your hands. Now, if you've got a block, it might come in handy for this pose. You're going to start to inch the back foot in and lift it up into Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. And then you're going to reach that foot behind you to come into Utthita Trikonasana, triangle pose. You might have be a little deeper in the pose. This is something I learned at an Iyengar school in California when I was out there a couple years ago. And then bend that front leg, bring the hands down, pivot that left heel behind you, and then bring the right leg up and down into downward facing dog. And then inhale that left leg up, bending it between your hands. And then if you've got the block, you can use it, or you can just bring the hand on the floor and slowly straighten the top leg up. Really press through that top heel. And then bend the front leg, inch the leg behind you, come into Utthita Trikonasana, extended triangle pose. And then bend the front leg, hands down, and inhale the left leg up into three-legged and downward facing. And let's all go into big toes together, knees wide for a couple of breaths. And then inhale coming up, and I haven't quite figured out how we're going to do this next thing, but we'll see how we go, because this is often where we need props. So have your block or your blanket or a cushion nearby for help. We're going to come into downward dog. We're going to inhale the right leg up. Now we're going to bring the shin a little bit forward to come into, a variation of Ekapada Rajakapotasana, which is pigeon pose. Now, often we need a little support under so in this case, it's my right hip. Sometimes under your sit bone here, you can have a block. And then we're trying to bring that shin a little bit further forward. So for now, you can just stay here and try to adjust the hips a little bit. And it might be a little challenging to go into it the first time. You might actually need more blocks. So this is just a variation. Just trying to ease our way into it. And then take the block away, and you're going to bring that right leg back up to three-legged, down into downward dog. And then inhale the left leg up and bending it forward. So you're trying to bring the shin a little bit, the left shin more forward. You can bring, I haven't practiced this pose in a while, so it's actually nice to start to feel into it. And later in the day, it's nice. It might be harder on you, Richard, because you're in the morning, but later in the day is often a time when we have more access to hip flexibility. So see how you go. Like sometimes, you know, you might actually need a couple of blocks to come into it, you know, a little more height. And then tuck the back toes so you can lift that left leg up, coming into downward facing. And then again, inhale that right leg up, coming forward. And just, you know, you have to go at your own pace in this pose because it just depends on the hips. So you might just want to stay in the beginning part of it, or if you feel a little more flexibility, you can, I'm going to get a cramp doing this, you can bend the back leg and hold on to that back foot just as a start or as the next level. And then you can release that leg and bring that right leg into three-legged and back to downward facing. And then inhale the left leg up, come back through. You can just stay here with more elevation, depending on your hips. And then if you want to go to the next level, you just bring that foot in. Since I haven't practiced this in a while, it's going to take me some time to get back here. So that's just a variation. This is not the full pose. Then release that. Inhale that left leg up, and then bring the knees down and go into big toes together, knees wide, a couple of breaths there. And then just come up to all four and just do a little cat and dog, just to release the lower back, the hips. If anything has been, you can shake it out a little bit, wag the tail. And then set yourself up for whatever you want to do for Shavasana. You can have the feet on a chair, on a couch, feet up the wall, elevation under your hips. Like I like to put my legs here and put something under my pelvis to give myself that elevation. A blanket might do there as well. Or you can just do plain old Shavasana. So whatever suits your body tonight. And then as you find yourself into whatever pose, just begin to focus on softening your breath. See if you can feel the support under your legs or your pelvis or your upper back, whatever is meeting the floor, meeting a chair, meeting the wall, meeting the props. See if you can feel that
part supporting you. So that more of that particular body part can spread and widen, and gravity can really start to bring some restfulness into the muscles, some restoration into the bones. And then see if you can notice the bones in your toes and your feet, all those little metatarsal bones. And see if you can allow them to have spaciousness and soften. And then moving into your ankles. See if you can feel how the bones rest into each other around your ankles, and then soften that area. And then in your lower leg, you've got I think it's the tibia and the fibula. Sometimes I remember my bones. And see if you can allow those to soften and lengthen. And then up in your knees, you have a lot of cartilage. So the cartilage is made out of the similar bone material, but it's a bit softer. So see if you can just soften the knees. And then that huge bone up in your thigh. Trying to remember what it's called, but it doesn't matter. It'll come to me. See if you can just allow length in that huge bone in your thigh as it lengthens from the knees up to the thigh socket. And then see if you can feel your pelvic bowl, which has the sacrum on the back. It's got your ischium. I'm not going to get all the terms right, but you've got the bones in the front of your pelvis, the sides of your pelvis, and at the end of the pelvis is the coccyx, your tailbone. See if you can find spaciousness in all those pelvic bones. The thigh bone's called the femur bone. I knew I'd remember it eventually. And then moving up into your rib cage. There's lots of little bones that curve around all your ribs. You've got the floating ribs, and you've got the ribs that connect into your front of your chest. And then behind the bones that aren't even connected are your shoulder blades. So see if you can allow all those bones to really soften. And you've got those collarbones out to the shoulder tips. Those widen. And then the upper arms, the bone in the upper arm. The cartilage in the elbow. Forearm, one that has two bones, the ulna and the, well, I'm not going to get that one right either. Those two bones curve and soften. The wrist bones are softening, and the hands have the carpal bones. So all those bones in your hands, there's space between all those bones. And then you've got your cervical spine. See if you can feel that length from the tailbone all the way up to the neck, where the cervical spine is, up to the head. So see if you can feel the length from inserting in the head all the way down to the tailbone. And then the head has bones in the head, and when we're born, they're quite soft, but there's still mobility in the bones in the head. So see if you can just feel a bit of expansion in those bones, that when you breathe, there's a bit of softening in the scalp and the bones that support your brain, that really encase and take care of your brain. And then in the face, there's the cheekbones that run out to your ears, and the jawbone. See if you can just soften and let those become spacious. And then slowly begin to deepen your breath, finding a little bit of movement in your fingers, your toes, your hands, your feet, and whatever kind of stretch you need to do. You can stretch and roll to your right side. And then you can slowly come up to sitting. Thank you and namaste.